Hi people, it's Archivist here, hope you're doing well. And over the past couple of days I decided to take a break from Master Duel because I wanted to try out Elden Ring. I just could not deny the reaction that this game has had. So much critical acclaim, so many people I know are singing the game's praises, and I've realised that often there's no smoke without fire and this sort of thing. When this many people are clamouring and claiming that a game is this good, it's worth a go. As much as I was a bit hesitant to do so, I've only really completed Sekiro Shadows Die Twice previously. I did play Dark Souls 3, though I only got, I want to say 2/3 of the way through. I'm not exactly sure, but I did hit a wall. So I was a bit nervous about going in because I was concerned that, as not being a veteran really of the series, I would very quickly fail. However, in playing the game, I've realised that it does allow, with patience and with exploration, for you to make challenges which can initially feel, honestly, insurmountable, in fact quite manageable. And because the act of exploration is quite interesting in this game and it's a very well designed world, you end up naturally wanting to go around exploring, finding camps, picking up items to make your character stronger. You get XP so you can level your character up in whichever area you want to specialize in. I've been doing mostly strength and dexterity just to make my weapon attack harder really, and also so I can equip certain weapons. And then when you go and face the bigger challenges like the main bosses in the game, they can be a lot more manageable because you've uncovered certain items. And the thing I'm honestly finding is making the biggest difference is for the two bosses that I've so far defeated. I think they're two main bosses. I've fought loads of mini bosses, but two main bosses. For both of them, I was able to find an NPC that could assist me, and that did make a hell of a difference. It does feel like I'm cheating it a bit when I do that, but frankly, it feels like you're supposed to take every advantage you can get in this game. Whereas with Sekiro, it seemed like on the whole, the main approach was to just master the fight and really overcome the opponent with sheer skill. Although that is still a factor in this game, I think it offers you so much more opportunity to go out and enhance yourself to the point where I think if you really grinded your character up, you could probably make a real mincemeat of these bosses just through sheer attack power and resilience. I found the two bosses I faced were difficult, and in fact, it took me a few times to actually beat them. A fair few times on the first one, especially because I just wasn't prepared for it to be that hard. But through perseverance and being evasive and defensive and being quite economical when I go for a strike, I was able to take them down. And it was funny on the second boss, which I only beat a couple of hours ago actually. I managed to get him down to just a fraction of their health, and all of my strategy went out the window and my heart was just racing, and I was just pressing the right bumper over and over again, even though my stamina bar was right at the bottom, just trying to get that last slash in to kill him. But it was, I lost all my composure and I was just desperate to take him down. But the bosses in this game have phenomenal design, and I thought that was a real strength in Sekiro as well. They look really good, and that's important because if you're going to be repeatedly attempting to defeat these guys, they need to look fairly interesting, and the arenas around them are also very well done, and the music as well. So there's, it's not something horrible you have to go through. Well, maybe there are later in the game. To be very, very clear, I have not gotten super far into the game yet. I'm in the second major expansive open area, but yeah, the open world offers almost like a diversion, because there was a point on the second boss initially where I was struggling a fair bit, and I was getting maybe not frustrated because I accept that these games are hard, but just like, do I want to keep trying this guy? And I decided just to take a break and wander around, and there was this whole extra area in the game that I hadn't been to yet. It had its own mini boss which was far more manageable. So it took me on this tangent where I went down to these catacombs and I destroyed this weird watchdog thing that looked more like a cat that sort of floated around. There was another one where there was this blood knight, but they were both much more manageable, so they were like micro challenges. And the thing is, by the time I had gone around and explored all these areas, I thought, wait a second, I've got a bit stronger now. I have new armor, a new weapon, and I went back to tackle the boss, and it was much more easier to manage. So something I've learned, and I guess advice to anyone who might be playing this game as well, who's also not super familiar with the series, it seems to be the knack for this game is to really go and explore everywhere. Because very early on, when you're going between what the game calls these sites of grace, which are like checkpoints that you can teleport between and you can use them to level up, there is a core path, and it will literally point you on the map in a direction that takes you to the main bosses. But if you actually follow that, you're not going to have a great time, because you will be facing opponents that are very difficult to defeat. You almost want to ignore that and think, okay, I get where you want me to go, but I'm not going to go there right now because I'm not going to stand much of a chance. And another thing which I learned more from Dark Souls than Sekiro, even though, like I said, I didn't finish it, is that you don't have to defeat every enemy you see. There's this knight on a horse very early on, and you might think that you need to defeat him as like the first boss if you're just assuming what this game is asking of you. But no, you can just totally go around him and maybe come back later when you're stronger, but you absolutely don't need to take him on initially. So you have to pick your fights. Maybe not the best thing to skip everything, because then you're not getting any XP, so you're not getting much more powerful. But there are definitely certain fights which are, there's more chance you will be defeated. There's this one particular bear enemy which, man, I cannot fight it. It is so aggressive and so powerful. I'll come back later when I'm a lot stronger, but at the moment he's really an insurmountable force of nature. So I am seeing where people are coming from in terms of the praise this game is getting. I'm not massively thinking this is a 10 out of 10 game or even a 9.5. So far, crucial to say so far, I'm hovering around more like the 85 area, but that might improve or lower as I go along. I think from a technical perspective, the game can feel a little bit weak. Certainly playing on Xbox Series X, the frame rate is not ideal. It's above 30, but it's not quite 60 consistently. It's dropping a lot, and it's quite distracting when you're trying to appreciate the open world. I'm getting the sense that it might have actually been made worse in a patch that came out right before launch, because this wasn't mentioned as much in the reviews, but at the moment, as I'll be making this video, because it might improve as soon as tomorrow for all I know, the Xbox Series X performance at least is not where I want it to be. And the funny thing is, I do have a variable refresh rate display which I normally play the game on, and when I'm playing on that, the frame rate looks okay, not ideal, but it's okay. But when I came to record for this gameplay you're seeing here, I have to disable the VRR in order to do it, and it showed me what the game looks like without it, and it's so stuttery. I guess you can see it in the video if you're looking closely, but I could certainly see it when I was playing, and it's really off-putting. And I guess it's mostly because I'm so used to modern Xbox Series X games often running at close to flawless 60 FPS, honestly, especially if the game has a favor performance mode, which this does. So it's weird to have that and yet not get great performance. I'm also hearing it doesn't run amazing even on high-end PCs, and I think also on PS5 it doesn't have great performance either. Well, I guess it depends on your definition of performance, right? If you look at the Dark Souls 1 on PS3, this runs amazingly, right? But if you compare it to modern titles, it isn't ideal. So that's kind of the thing that stands out to me the most. But if we're talking about let's just call it artistic, much like Breath of the Wild, it is just staggering to look at. It captures the beauty of nature but introduces these fantastic mystical scenery. The Erd tree in the center of the map acts as this guiding North Star, I guess you could say, but is also just absolutely wonderful to behold, and I look at it just every now and then, just so rich. So this is definitely more of an early impression of me reacting to it. I think it's one of those games where it might be getting a bit too much hype. It's probably reaching an audience that won't appreciate it as much as the core. I'm not the core audience for this game. I'm more sort of out on the perimeter. I can manage it, I can fight my way through, but I'm no expert. If you are really into the Souls games, you can probably you're probably sighing at some of my opinions and how amateur they are, right? But I'm enjoying it for sure, and I can see myself playing it a fair bit longer. If anything else, it's interesting to play a game that is deliberately not playing by modern rules, right? A game that is not as you would expect of a modern title, because it kind of makes it a little bit refreshing, but it also can make it tricky to understand. Most of the time, if you're on a level and a boss is thrown in front of you, or a big enemy is thrown in front of you, the implication is you should fight it, but that is not necessarily the case in this, for example. So it's both a strength and perhaps a weakness to the uninitiated, you might say. So overall, I'm liking Elden Ring, but it would be premature for me to recommend it, because I don't know if it starts to get weaker later on. Like, it might just be a really strong start. It's also a case of not everyone wants to invest so much time into such a challenging game, which does, I think, require you to grind a little bit, or get good, as they say. But yeah, good initial impressions, and I guess if you're looking for a challenge which is like Sekiro, in terms of more fast-paced combat, I have been playing Sifu as well. I made a brief video on it a couple of weeks ago. That might scratch the itch a little bit more for you if you really like the combat in Sekiro, because it's much more fast-paced, but it's also quite challenging itself. So, as always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.